First up, we are going to be doing a crispy crackling pork belly. Yes, this one, my friends, all the crunch, but then all that really soft, juicy meat underneath, because I've got a super special technique for preparing and slow cooking your pork. Let's get right into it straight away. First of all, we need to cut to yesterday, the night before Christmas, if you like. So guys, let's talk about pork belly first of all. Now, in Thailand, actually, we call pork belly mo sam chan, which is quite interesting because that means like pork 3 levels, which I think is cool because what you want are lots of levels. You want levels of fat, you want levels of meat, certainly. You don't want all fat and you don't want all meat either. Make sure you get a good piece where you've got a nice balance of those levels, if you like. That's the way I like to think about it anyway. Meat and fat. And look, you can size this to how you like. So I'm doing like a big, this is like a 2.5 kilo piece. Ask your butcher to cut it to size if you want it smaller or larger. This one will probably do about 6 people. So the way we prepare it though, you need to start the day before, and the whole idea here is that I want to get as much sort of salting and drying as I can into that pork skin. That's going to give us the best amount of crunch. So let's start off with the scoring first of all. Now, you need some school tools here. We're not artsy and crafting. We're not crafting and artsing or artsing and crafting. We're not doing arts and crafts today, but we do, this is the way I like to do it. Stanley knife, much sharper than your average home kitchen knife, and a ruler. You want to just put your ruler down and use that Stanley knife to score straight into the skin. And I like to do like 1/2 centimeter kind of intervals here. And you're looking to make sure that you're cutting through the skin. You don't want to cut all the way through the fat and into the meat. You just kind of want the skin and the fat to get nicked by that knife. Now the reason I like to do this, because even when I bought my pork belly from my butcher, he did offer to score it, but I do find, unless you have a very patient butcher, that there's often just not enough scoring. The reason why we want so much scoring is that you want as much you want as many openings as you can to allow the fat to come up from underneath the pork while it's cooking, and then that fat will cook and spread onto the top layer of pork and get everything really crunchy. So yes, there is method to the madness, always. Okay, now we've got the scoring done, let's get onto some seasoning. I'm going to use a mixture of salt and 5-spice here. I love a Chinese style 5-spice pork. To me, it has such a celebratory kind of fragrance and aroma. So I start off with a little bit of salt, a fair bit of salt. It's such a terrible, it's so bad, isn't it? Like every kind of, cook that does a show or chef on a cooking show always says a little bit of this, a little bit of that. This is a lot of salt and some Chinese 5-spice. Look, if you want to have a go at making your own homemade Chinese 5-spice, I've got a video on how to do that as well. Store-bought is totally fine though as well. So that goes in. Now flip that pork over, because I want this lovely 5-spice salt only on the meat part. So just start sprinkling that over. And you're going to need to do a little massaging here. Just really rub that salt and that spice all over that meat. Okay, flip that over. Now the next thing we want to do here is make sure that our skin is really super dry at all stages of this cooking process. So I'm going to get some paper towel and just wipe off any of that spice that's on the top as well, because the spice we're going to go really high heat on the top of this pork belly, so the spice can burn. So I like to get rid of any of that. Now really get in here, make sure that you're wiping off any moisture. So moisture, when it comes to crispy crackling, moisture is your enemy. Any of that kind of liquid is going to stop that fat from crisping up. All right, now we just want plain salt on the top. So 2 reasons for doing the salt here on the top. One, salt is good flavor, and to me, crispy pork crackling always has like a, it's salty and crunchy. But also the salt's going to help to draw out the moisture from that pork skin. And The more we can draw out the moisture, the crispier we're gonna get. Okay, just rub that in a little. Now this guy needs a little beauty sleep in the fridge, uncovered. That way we're getting more of that moisture kind of evaporating off in the cool fridge. And we're gonna leave that overnight. Your patience will be rewarded. See you tomorrow. All right, so pork belly has had its little time in the fridge, and look, it's looking pretty dry to me right now. There is just a few little pockets of moisture here. So I want to get a paper towel and really just make sure this is uber dry. Couple more setup things before we get the pork in the oven. So I like to cook the pork on a rack just to elevate it above the bottom of the tray. So to make sure we don't get any kind of sticking issues though, I just like to lightly brush that with some oil or just paper towel it with some oil. Now the reason the roasting rack is a good idea is it allows the hot air to circulate all around the pork and you don't kind of get hot spots from the pork sitting on the hot tray. Now pork goes on top. And we're going to do a two-stage cooking process. So first of all, I want to take care of getting that meat really nice and tender and soft and melting, as well as rendering some of the fat that's underneath the skin. So we want to go really low and slow for the first 3 hours. Yes, 3 hours, and you will have to put up with the amazing porky smell filling your entire house. Then we're going to come back and finish off the crackling. So while your pork is in the oven, you can make this really beautiful homemade plum sauce, but you could also do this the day before, so that means you've got less things to do on Christmas Day. This keeps really well in the fridge. So what we need to do is, let's talk about some plums. First of all, we are making a spiced plum sauce. So these are some whole plums in juice or syrup, either one is fine. You can get them in cans, you can get them in jars, you can even use cherries as well if you want to do a cherry version instead of the plum. What I like to do though is get a hold of our plums and take them out of the syrup first of all. I like to be delicate with these. They are quite soft and I do want to keep them in a nice shape for the end. Now all that juice or syrup that's left, that goes into my saucepan. And to that you want to add some sugar, some vinegar, a really good dash of fish sauce here. Now look, I know you might be thinking, wow, fish sauce, fruit, that's weird. The fish sauce is going to give us a really salty plus umami savory flavor to our sauce. I think it's kind of like the little hidden secret ingredient for this one. And then some spices. So I've got a cinnamon stick and some star anise. Now you want to bring this up to a little bubbling simmer and then cook it down for about 10 or 15 minutes. I want that sugar to dissolve and I want the whole thing to thicken up a little. It will thicken even more as it cools, but you do want quite a thick syrup to start with because the fruit, when we combine them together at the end, can make the syrup a little bit more watery. So we want to keep this nice and intense and thick. Now while that sauce is doing its thing, let's get these plums all prepped and ready. So I just like to take the pit out from the middle, cut around the sides, open it up, and then just place those into the bowl that you're going to serve the sauce in is the easiest thing. And if you're doing this the day before, a really good idea is to keep the plums and the syrup separate until just before or the morning of when you're going to serve, just because I do find that all that juice from the plums does kind of leach out into the syrup. Not a bad thing, but I just like to have a nice rich kind of thick syrup at the end. Now this is the kind of situation you're looking for with your syrup. I love that ruby red color. So thick and glossy. Okay, so let that cool down a little bit. Now once that's nice and cool, you can pour that over your plums, unless of course you want to save it until later. I like to keep the spices in there as well. I think it looks really nice and it kind of tells people what the spiced flavor is in your lovely sauce. So there we go, that one is good to go. Okay guys, pork currently smelling amazing. Come in here and have a look at what's happening. So that all those little cuts that I told you guys to take the time to do, look at all that fat just kind of seeping out of there, bubbling away. So that's coming up and out onto the skin. That's what's gonna give us the crispy crunchiness. Now, we're not quite there with the crunchiness. Don't worry, just be patient, trust me. But have a look at the meat here. That is like super soft, gelatinous, amazing already. Oh my goodness, that is so, it makes me so happy. But what we need to do now is get that crispy, crunchy crackling going on. So I want you to turn the oven up super high, like 200, 220 Celsius. Get that pork back in there. Look, this could take up to an hour, but keep coming back to check. I like to sort of swivel the pork around every now and again in the oven, you know, give it some love, and we'll see what happens. Okay, come and have a look at this slab of perfection right here. Look, I don't even need to say anything. I just think you guys should just have a listen to this. That sound, amazing. It is literally like music. Play the pork drums all day, but what would be better would be actually eating the pork. Now, here we go guys, some more crunch for you. So good. Wow, see, have a look at how juicy and soft that meat is. I mean, this is, that's why we do the slow cook, and then we've got the crunchy everything. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's have another slice here. I like to pop everything out onto a platter. Now you want a generous little drizzle of that tangy, sweet, spiced plum sauce. I like to pop down like a few of the plums and some of the spices as well. So there you go guys, slow roasted spiced pork with that super crispy crackling, our beautiful plum sauce and that herbaceous tangy little salad. Let me get into the main event here. I need to try that pork or I'm literally gonna die. Oh, it smells so good. Oh, look at that crackle. Do you know what happens there? The meat literally just like melts away into this like porky heaven. And then the crunch, wow. This is such a wow piece, guys. Oh. How do you get roast chicken with the crispiest, most golden skin and the juiciest meat inside? Well, I have the answers, everyone. This is my very best salt and pepper roast chicken. All right, so there are so many different ways to roast a chicken. My way is hotter and faster. I think the hotter the heat, the crispier skin you get, and I'm all about crispy skin, and also the less time that bird spends in the oven, the less chance we have of drying out some of that white breast meat. So there are all the reasons why. Let's get into the actual making. Now I'm going to do a salt and pepper flavor with mine, so a slight kind of little Asian flair. I'm going to start with some black peppercorns. And I want some white peppercorns as well. So I like the mix here of the black and the white. I think you get a really nice, I don't know, kind of milder pepper flavor from the white, and then a kind of harsher, also more spicy kind of flavor from the black. There you go. And just grind those up. Okay, so this is the kind of situation that we're after with our pepper. I want to keep it quite coarse because I really want those hits of pepper when I'm biting into my chicken. And now I'm going to add some salt. Really good flaky sea salt here is what I love, but you know, you could use kosher salt as well. Okay, so we are not going to do anything super tricky or fancy here because quite frankly, we don't have to. There are a couple of things we do need to do though. One, we need to fill the cavity. So you always want to fill the cavity of your chicken so that you don't get too much hot air cooking the chicken from the inside out. That is when you're going to get dry chicken. So I just want a lime, or a lemon would be fine as well, or an onion even. And now trussing. So you don't have to get all fancy with the trussing either. All you really want to do is pick these legs up and kind of pull them together because you're kind of then making the whole chicken a bit more compact. Again, we're trying to make sure that things don't dry out. So if you've got some legs flapping around everywhere, then you've got more chance of things drying out. So pick the legs up and just tie them together with some string. Now make sure those wing tips are tucked underneath, just like that. All right, now we want to go on with our salt and pepper mix, and we want a lot. So I pretty much want to use the whole lot all on this chicken and really kind of rub it in there. Give that guy some love. And that is looking very good. And now you want to go in with a much higher temp than you might normally think. So usually about 180 degrees Celsius is what is recommended in recipes. We're going to go in at 250, and that is 480 in Fahrenheit. So really hot. So at this temperature, your bird is going to need 20 minutes per 500 grams, and that should work out to be perfectly cooked. All right, so you guys know me by now. Of course, what am I gonna have with my chicken? It's gonna be a spicy dipping sauce. So we are going with a Thai style Nam Dim Dao sauce today. A really traditional, kind of funky, spicy sauce. So first up, we want some fish sauce. And now I want some tamarind. So tamarind is an ingredient that's really sour, and you can find it in like most Asian grocery stores or online these days. And some brown sugar. So we've got the fish sauce that's like salty, umami, a bit funky. You've got the sour tamarind, you've got the sweet brown sugar. Now we want to go in with some shallots. Okay, so this just needs to be roughly chopped. And I want some chili flakes here. As much or as little as you like, but this sauce traditionally should be like fire, like it should be really hot. So I put a fair bit in, and some coriander as well. And then finally some lime juice. And let me just see if this sauce is tasting good, because you always need to check the seasoning here. I love that. Whoa, it is spicy. It's got that really funky, like fish sauce, savory kind of kick. And then those shallots as well, really kind of all just works together. That is one beautiful spicy sauce. All right, so now we're just waiting for our chicken. Whoa, I mean, okay, come on, check out that chicken. That is really a work of art. Amazing, like that skin, that beautiful color, that crispy, salty, peppery goodness on there. Oh, truly perfection. I'm so excited about this. Okay, so let's make sure that our chicken is cooked, and I'll show you guys how we do that. Let's get the chicken onto a board. And then you just want to have a look inside this leg joint part here. Just cut that open and make sure all those juices in there are running clear. If they're pink, still not done, pop them back in the oven for a few more minutes. All right, so in an ideal world, you would let your chicken rest for about 10-20 minutes. I really need to get dinner on the table at this point in time because, as those of you with toddlers would know, that you kind of get to a witching hour point of the day where the screaming doesn't stop. So I'm gonna get my chicken carved right now. All right, so I'll break this down for you guys. Really simple way to carve a chicken. First of all, we take those strings off the legs. Okay, now legs first, cut through here. And now legs and thighs are always in high demand at my place. So I try to, divide them up in as many pieces as possible. So we want to get the drumstick first. And then cut that thigh in half. That glorious chicken skin. And now we want some wings. Now you want to slice through that breast. Try to make sure you're not disturbing too much of that beautiful crispy skin. You want each piece to have a nice whisper of skin there to crunch through. And then just slice that breast. And there you go. All right, quick word about what we've got left over after we've carved our chicken. One, you have a pan full of like schmaltzy, yummy, salty chicken fat. Do not waste that. You could make a pan sauce out of it, or I like to save it and kind of toss some potatoes in there next time I'm roasting and get them all chickeny and salty and yummy. So save that. And then we have the chicken carcass. Put that in the freezer and make yourself a chicken stock at a little later date. Roasted chicken carcass always makes for great stock. All right, but let's get to our roast chicken. All I need to do now is get my spicy sauce on the side. And there you go, guys. The very best roast chicken I know how to make, and I am super excited for you guys to try this one. But let me try this first so I can tell you all about it. Now, I know that you guys know that I'm a legs and thighs girl, so that would be cheating to try that. I am gonna try the breast and tell you how well we've done with the juiciness. Let's have a look. Okay, I'm telling you, chicken breast gets a bad rap. I promise you, if you do it just like this, it is insanely good. That is so juicy, it literally could be a piece of thigh. I mean, out of this world good, guys. So good. Let me get some spicy dipping sauce too. Now that really makes me one very happy girl. That salt and pepper chicken flavor, that really juicy breast, and then that spicy kick of flavor. Wow. Just wow. I mean, yes. So looking forward to dinner tonight. So in my household, guys, nothing says Christmas more than a glazed baked ham. I guess it's an Australian kind of thing that we do, but wow, everyone should be doing it. It's so good. Now this ham is very special. It is the culmination of like years of ham making. It is my actual ultimate ham recipe, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently to what you might have seen before. Stay tuned. I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks. First up, we're going to prepare the ham. So let's talk about the ham. Now I prefer a whole smoked ham with the bone in. The bone part kind of provides a little bit of a handle later on. You'll see what I mean. All right, so take your ham, and what we need to do here is take the skin off, but leave the layer of fat that's there. So start off by just doing a little ring around your handle. So just cut around here, and then go to the other side of the ham down the bottom here, make a little cut just underneath the skin, and then now you really want to get your hands dirty. So just get your finger under here and separate the skin from the layer of fat. Try and do it in a really neat way without gouging too many bits out of the fat, because the fat's actually what is going to be the kind of top layer, the beautiful top layer of our ham. So keep going right over the top here, and you should be able to take that skin off in one piece. Now the skin is something you really want to keep a hold of, because you're probably not going to eat the whole ham all at once, or you might, but if you're going to be storing your ham over Christmas, you want to keep the skin to put over the top so it doesn't dry out. So keep a hold of that. Now we come to the scoring part. So this part's really important because it's going to affect the look of your ham at the end. So this is where you decide, do I want a diamond pattern? Do I want a stripe pattern? Do I want no pattern at all? I'm going to go with a nice clean line pattern this year. So I'm going to start off about here and do one stroke where I know I've got the right angle. And then now about a centimeter spacing, I just want some nice straight lines all the way across. So that is your ham prepped and ready to go. Now I'm going to put this guy onto a tray lined with lots of foil. So usually with a glazed ham, we do a bit of decoration, maybe poke some cloves in there, some cherries with some toothpicks, and then it gets a glaze and it goes in the oven. So this year I'm doing things a little bit differently. Now let's get on to making the marinade. I want some ginger first of all. And some garlic. And some Asian shallots. Look, you could use red onion or French eschalots as well. Just roughly chop those. And I want some red chilies here as well. These guys are not hot. They're just going to provide more of a kind of capsicum, bell pepper kind of flavor. But you could make it spicy if you want to. And now for the spices. So we've got a really big hunking piece of meat here. So we really need to go with some really strong, in your face kind of spices. And I want spices that remind me of Christmas. And to me, Christmas smells like allspice. So that's going to go in. And then of course, because you know I love to add Asian flavors to whatever it is I'm cooking, I'm adding some Chinese 5-spice. And actually the Chinese 5-spice brings a really beautiful, unique flavor to the ham itself. I really love it. And some ground cloves. And then now some brown sugar as well. And now a couple of ingredients that I think really help to get all our big marinade flavors into the ham itself. First of all, some vinegar. This is malt vinegar. And now some spiced rum. So the spiced rum is actually going to add a little bit of flavor, and the alcohol itself is a really good carrier of flavor molecules. So that's going to help when the alcohol seeps into the ham with all those spices. It's going to carry all that flavor in there. But if you wanted to leave the rum out, you could just add apple juice instead. And you want a little bit of salt here too. Now we just want to blend everything up. Let's have a look. And oh, you know, it really does smell like Christmas when I make this marinade. All those spices, oh, and the spiced rum. Yum. Now spoon our marinade mix over your ham. Things are going to get messy here, guys. Just get in there with your hands and rub the mixture all over. Make sure you get some underneath as well. Now pour the liquid. Make sure you've got lots of liquid coming out all over the top of the ham, because that's what's going to seep through into those little score marks that we've made. Now just wrap your ham up really nice and snug. Now if you can be super organized, try and get your ham into the fridge overnight. If you're doing things last minute, look, 2 hours is going to do. So time to do our glaze. And I like to keep things really simple here. I start off with a fruit base. So a jam and a juice. You could go with whatever kind of fruit that you like. I've done peaches, I've done blackcurrant, I've done raspberry. This year I'm doing cherry. So I've got some dark cherry jam and some cherry juice. And to give our glaze some sweetness and some body so it kind of sticks and clings to the ham while it bakes, I need some brown sugar and some soy sauce, because that's going to give us not just a salty flavor but a bit of an umami flavor as well. And some whole star anise, because that's going to infuse our glaze with a really beautiful, unique Asian flavor. Now just bring this up to a simmer. I like to simmer it for about 5 minutes or so, just to let the star anise do its work and to dissolve all of that sugar. So now let's take a look at our ham. This guy has been getting nice and tasty under that marinade. Now all of this stuff has already done its job. All of that flavor is in there, all of that liquid is seeped into our ham. So I just want to brush the kind of roughage off. Now pop your ham onto another tray lined with foil, and then I like to wrap the bone end of the ham in some foil. Again, that creates a bit of a handle for us at the end. Now let's have a look at our glaze. All right, that's looking good. I'm just going to pour it out into a bowl. And now the fun part, well, I find it fun anyway, but brush that glaze onto your ham. And now this goes into the oven about 45 minutes. You want to be basting it every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You cannot baste it enough. The actual ham itself is cooked, so it's not about cooking the ham, it's actually about getting that beautiful lacquering of glaze on the top. So now let's take a look at our ham. Oh, what a little thing of beauty this is. Look at that sticky glaze. Oh, just slightly charry at the edges. You know, this reminds me so much of Chinese barbecue as well. Oh, okay, so let's get this out onto a plate. You need a little bit of muscle here. Okay, so before we get to the slicing and eating part, let's have a look at all my bits and pieces. I have my potato salad. I like to also serve this with some bread rolls for, you know, mopping up all the sticky ham goodness, or for making little ham sandwiches. And I also like some mustard as well. Let's dig in and have a look. That just looks perfect to me. And that, my friends, is literally Christmas on a plate in my household. There's no Christmas without ham, there's no ham without Christmas. A little bit of mustard. Let's see. Do you know what makes all the difference here? And that is that marinade. So many ham recipes don't have the marinade, and I don't always do the marinade, but wow, when you do, you just get that beautiful cascade of spices, the allspice, the Chinese 5-spice, the cloves, plus the sweetness from our glaze. Perfection. So good. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, why not hit the like button? And even better, I would love so much if you would subscribe and even hit that little bell button so you get notified every time I release a new delicious video. Thanks guys.